Today's guest not only is a best-selling author and globally recognized speaker, but also one of my most trusted friends and fellow industry leaders who I turn to when I need truth, insight, and heart. Ryan Minton rose from the front desk to senior VP, leading powerhouse brands like Hilton, Marriott, and IHG. His new book, Uplifted, The Remarkable Power of Positive Leadership on Frontline Teams, that comes out this week, is changing how we lead in the trenches and beyond. Ryan believes appreciation isn't soft, it's strategic. And today he's sharing the mindset and the methods behind truly transformative leadership. You are going to love this conversation. Let's go. Welcome to the Yes Show. I'm your host, Christine Trippy. Each week, we'll explore the life-changing power of saying yes, along with hotel leadership made easy. Get ready for inspiration, fun, and sweet hospitality. Let's go. Ryan, welcome. You said yes to walking away from a six-figure salary to going all in on entrepreneurship. Tell us about this.
Yeah, scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
My first book, thanks for coming in today, was 7 years ago. And I still to this day just am so humbled by what that book has done and how it impacts people. And I've just felt this calling, if you will, for a while now that I want to do more, that I want to lean into what I really feel is my purpose, which is inspiring leaders to understand their impact and specifically their impact on the people they manage every day. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided I had a new book in me. And so with that in mind and just really feeling this pull to go all in, I wrote my second book, Uplifted. It's coming out on June 10th. As you know, I
Woo!
just my
It's so pretty.
copy, and which you incredibly endorsed, and you're in here. So thank you, Christine. And yes, I am all in. I'm just so thankful to be in this place where I can do this work, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a blast.
Yes, well, we're very similar in this. We both did this of walking away from salaries and corporate life and to give back to the world, any brand, any company, any industry. And I just think it's so awesome. And I'm so excited for your next launch. Now tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. So since you left corporate world, were you focusing solely on this book? Is that what the main motivation from walking away was?
Well, I've been speaking for years, as you
Mhm.
know, and it's always been kind of a part-time thing because obviously my priority was my for full-time job. But now that I'm left that job, I can speak more. So I've been speaking at more conferences and
Mhm.
I'll be speaking more. And then yeah, just really working on the book. And then I would say the biggest thing and the best thing has just been hanging out with my son Charlie. Uh,
Well, I,
he's 3 and I tell people all the time, I might be one of the few speakers and authors who left my career to travel less, to become a speaker and travel
right,
less. Because,
right.
in my corporate role as a vice president, I was gone almost every week, and it was really, really impacting my time with my little guy. So
Mhm.
I love spending time with Charlie. That's been a big part of my last couple months.
Yes, and I love following you on social and watching your adventures with your little buddy. It's funny because down the line of my questions that I have for you, I have on here, quote unquote, tell us about Charlie. So I'm
I can
glad
talk
you
about
started.
Charlie all the time.
Yes, I'm so glad you started with him. He's such a mini you. He's so cute. I just love him. Yes.
I was just say we take these little mini adventures every weekend, and one of our things that we do every Sunday, yesterday, is we go to Costco, and we take a Costco trip. And I joke with people all the time that I'm addicted to Costco. I love Costco, and I really believe it's because I spent my career in the hospitality industry, and so I have this need for inventory in my garage. I have a shelf and I have, 100 rolls of paper towels. I have toilet paper. Of course, we have, well, we're getting out of the diapers, but diapers and
Yeah.
wipes and all those things. But if I get down to like, 10 rolls, I'm freaking out. Like I gotta make an order. And so
Yes.
we go every Sunday. He loves the samples. I get my inventory restocked, and it's a good feeling.
That is so funny that you have this little idiosyncrasy, I guess, that you have to have your par and your
Yeah, I
That's
do.
so cute. I love that. And I really think that it's more about the time you spend with him.
Oh yeah.
All
Good.
right, so now Uplifted, your new awesome book. It's rooted in the powerful real life story. Tell us about Jason and how that his simple greeting inspired this whole movement.
Yeah, so Jason was the inspiration behind Thanks for Coming In Today. Incredible young man that I got to work with. My very first job at the Marriott, Cincinnati Marriott North. And, Jason would come to work all the time with this crazy excitement to be at work. He was always so pumped to be there for his shift. And he'd come up to me no matter where I was, give me that big handshake. Ryan, thanks for coming in today. And his energy was infectious. It impacted everyone around us. It impacted me. I always joke, I was his boss. Like he should be thanking him, but he would thank me. And Jason was just that kind of guy. And as many people heard the story, I got to bring him on board with me as a manager later in my career when I was a GM. And unfortunately, his life was cut short with a car accident, and it really impacted me early in my career, because he was a good buddy of mine at that time, even though we were coworkers. And um, I missed hearing Jason saying, "Thanks for coming in today." And so I began honoring him very early in my career, doing that to folks. Thanks for coming in today, telling them that. And, you know, um, I didn't realize at the time, but that was really becoming the foundation of my entire leadership approach, which was genuine appreciation, letting people know that you care, letting people know that um, you value them being there. You know this, Christine, especially work in the hotel business. Every job matters, and
Yes.
if someone doesn't show up for their shift, especially today, it
Hmm.
it impacts the whole day. And so it was very clear to me early in my career, like, man, I got to make sure my folks enjoy coming to work.
Yes.
And part of that was, letting them know that I appreciated them being there. Thanks for coming in today. And the rest of that story that I get to share in this new book that not a lot of people have heard is right after Thanks for Coming In Today came out. I was hired to speak at a casino company in Cincinnati. And I started my talk just like I have all my other talks, talking about Jason. I put this photo of Jason on the screen. And when I did that, in the back of the audience, a woman screamed, "That's my son." And it's this story it's hard to believe.
It's hard to believe it's real.
She's
I
good at,
literally am
I always, yeah.
singing from head to toe right
I
now.
still get I still get goosebumps. I
Mhm.
believe it was a divine appointment for me to meet Jason's mom. I mean,
Mhm.
I always say, think about it. This was in a casino, an industry
Right.
that's on odds.
Right.
What are the odds that I would meet Jason's mom this way? And so I got to share Jason's story, obviously, with her, and afterwards we hung out. And to this day, we are such good friends. We're Facebook friends. She's come to hear me speak. I have the photo of us the day we met to prove that this happened because it's so hard to believe.
It
And
is.
um, what I write about in the book is that Janine is her name, Jason's mom, shared with me that she knew Jason loved his job. He loved everything he did. He had so much passion, but she really was understood after hearing the story that I shared that what he really loved and what she loved knowing was that he was impacting people. And so in Uplifted, I share that story and I talk about it doesn't matter what job you have. Jason was a front desk agent when I met him.
Yeah.
You impact everyone around you every day. And I guess that's a good segue into why there is a balloon on the cover. Uh,
Yes.
so I have always had this in my mind that when I interact with people, that people carry with them an invisible balloon. And so this balloon kind of just represents, how someone's doing. And as most of us know, we're all dealing with different things. So our balloons are different levels. One person may be on top of the world, they just got a promotion, something great happened. They've got a new book coming out. They're
Yeah.
happy.
They got
Um,
engaged.
yeah, but then there's other folks that are in the same room with us that, their balloon's less than inflated, maybe deflated. They've dealing with something health related, maybe recent loss. You don't know. And
Yeah.
so I thought, I just want to have every interaction put a little air into someone's balloon. That's what I can do. That's how I can impact someone. And so Uplifted is really about this idea that every interaction we have, regardless of who we are, what position we have, but especially leaders, we should be going about our day putting a little bit of air in someone's balloon. And if we can have this happening in our work environments where everybody's balloon is getting a little bit more full, I mean, imagine how much better that place is to work.
Hmm.
And everybody's balloons are, more inflated. I won't blow this up for you now because face blow it up. But I always like let the air out a little bit. The like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's not a fun place to be. But when balloons are inflated and people are having, are positive, like it's just a better place to be. And so I always just wanted to be that person as a leader.
Hmm.
I wanted to put a little bit of air in someone's balloon.
Yes, that is why we're such good friends because
Yeah.
we are just truly, genuinely passionate about this topic. And it's just thrilling. And I love your analogy for this. It's just perfectly, it fits perfectly. And the whole balloon, and now you've got an emoji for all your posts.
Right. I always wanted emoji ever since I saw you had the pineapple.
So perfect. I love the concept. I love the activity. This is easy to bring to a team huddle to demonstrate it because again, every single person on your team is a leader. We only hire leaders in our industry. And so their job is to uplift people too as a leader. And
Absolutely.
have you ever heard the story about Johnny the Bagger?
No.
Oh my goodness, you haven't? Okay,
Uh-uh.
I'm gonna send
Nope.
it to you.
Okay. Johnny
It's
the
all
Bagger.
Johnny the Bagger. Just quickly, it's about a grocery store bagger. His name is Johnny, and he has Down syndrome,
Hmm.
and he wants to make a difference. Wants to have a bigger impact, and so his dad helps him to create little quote pieces of paper, and on each little piece of paper, there's a quote. So in every bag, every single day, Johnny would put one of his special quotes inside the bag because he wanted to make an impact.
Hmm.
And pretty soon, Johnny's line was the longest line in the store. And the manager came and said, "Oh, there's openings here, there's openings." And everybody said, "We want to be in Johnny's line."
Awesome.
It's an adorable book. It's a story. But again, we all want to make that impact.
But you know
And
what? I'm going to look that up. And it just
yes.
immediately reminded me of my grocery store because
Hmm.
there are a couple we've been going there for 4 years now. I always joke I'm there 3, 4 nights a week because Charlie just consumes so much fruit. Um, and there's a couple folks that like I've gotten to know, and like I will wait for them,
Mm-hmm.
have that fun little, interaction. How you doing? And they know me, they know Charlie, and it's just it's amazing how we can have that level of impact even on
Mm-hmm.
small, and how big
Yes.
it can really be.
It changes your work, it changes your community, it changes your life.
Yes.
Yes, I love that. Oh, I just love that. Okay, so you talk about no bad day as your t-shirt says
No
right
bad
now.
days.
No, no.
Available at ryanminton.store.
I love that so much. So you talk about the no bad day policy in the book, and why is this more than just a catchy phrase? How can leaders actually implement it?
Gosh, so this was something that I um, latched on again early in my career because I had a couple bad bosses that
Hmm.
just, emotional, never knew what kind of mood they were going to be in. You'd always be on eggshells on, what kind of mood they were going to be
Hmm.
in. And that was just like it impacted all of us. Like it was just like not fun and not an environment you want to be in. And so I hate the word policy. I say it's a dirty word. But this is honestly like the only policy that I had, which was we have a no bad day policy as leaders. And
Hmm.
what that means is we owe it to our folks every day to be on, to show up, to be positive, even when we don't feel like it, even when we can't. And I always say this is not like I get it. We're all human. Like, man, Charlie was born when I was a GM and I struggled getting to work in the mornings. I was not happy to go in on no sleep.
Hmm.
But I had to dig it in. I had to dig deep. And when I walked in those doors, like, man, I had to be on because I knew that however my mood was going to extend into the operation, whether I
Hmm.
liked it or not. And so I just used to tell our folks all the time, like, we just don't get to have bad days. Now we can do it in closed doors. That's what the office is for. We can hash things out, but man, let's give 100% when it comes to positivity with our folks because, and I think you've heard this phrase before, but what's happening on the inside of an organization is always going to be felt on the outside by the customer.
Hmm.
And so that's my no bad day policy is we have to be on for our folks and we have to lead with positivity no matter what's going on. And
Hmm.
I found that this was really impactful. We would lead with this in our huddles. We would talk about, with our leadership team, like weekly staff meetings, like, even when times were tough, we were constantly talking about the no bad day policy.
Yeah, I love it so much and so needed. And it's just such a great reminder because, sometimes you forget when you're the general manager that you're the general manager. In our heads, we're just like this regular person and
Yes.
I'm human just like you. But no, to everybody else, you're the GM.
Mhm.
And it's special. So
Mhm.
you need to represent that. You are their leader, you're their visionary, and and I love this. Energy is contagious. Is yours worth catching? So if you
Yes.
want to have a even worse day, have a bad attitude and let everybody do a bad job today.
Yeah.
But
You hit the nail on the head. I remember even as a GM of, big hotels, Westin Fort Lauderdale, Marriott Fort Lauderdale,
right.
I still kind of couldn't believe that I was the GM.
I
Like, like and and I just thought, no, like I'm Ryan. Like I'm just
hmm
Ryan. And sometimes people, other leaders would come to me and share something that maybe I had said or done something that impacted someone not in a way that I had hoped. And it was like, and they're like, you had to remind like, oh man, like I'm being watched every move.
Right.
And so in my book, I interview Don Fox, who is the recently retired CEO of Firehouse Subs, a great
Oh,
brand.
okay.
And he talks about this idea that as leaders, our ability to watch our team is far exceeded by their ability to watch us.
Right.
So their ability to watch us exceeds our ability to watch them.
Yes.
And that's huge.
Hmm.
This kind of, I think actually that's in the chapter where I talk about the no bad day policy is that, you're always being watched.
Hmm.
Every move, everything you say. And so it's it's important that you put some intentionality around this.
Yes. So speaking of that, what is one of the most common leadership traps that you've seen well-meaning managers fall into?
Well, on the other side of all this positive thinking is
Mhm.
you still have to hold people accountable.
Yes.
Like this is not Pollyannish thinking. Like I want to make that
Right.
clear. So you do have to find a balance of this positive approach, but also letting folks know there's some accountability in play.
Hmm.
So I think one of the traps that I saw with especially young leaders was looking the other way when you knew you had to confront something that wasn't right or wasn't, you know, the way it should be. Because
Yes.
you didn't want to. upset someone, or you didn't want them to think less of you, or you didn't, and one of the biggest fears that I think leaders, let's be honest, have these days, we don't want people to leave. We don't want people to quit
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to keep those positions filled.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't let that fear negate what is, right and wrong. And
Right.
so there is a balance. You have to find it.
Mhm.
I think it's tough love. I think it's, a little bit of tough love sometimes when things go wrong. But yeah, that I think is a trap sometimes. People want to be the positive leader, but they don't do the other part of it.
Right, right.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
here's a couple things that I say. One, your margarita can only be as good as your worst lime. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
You got one
Yeah.
bad lime in that margarita, the whole margarita is
Yeah.
bad and it's toxic. So when you allow poor behavior from others and
Mm,
you don't hold people accountable, then that's going to toxify your whole culture,
totally.
etc.
It undermines you and you don't even realize it.
Yes. And this is something I talk about in my Let's Empower masterclass. I ask leaders, raise your hand if you have avoided a critical conversation because you're afraid your team member is just going to quit. And
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. It's been hard over the last 5 years or more.
Yeah.
And everybody raises their hand. Everybody. And I get it. Here's the thing though. 95% of the people will actually stay longer if they feel invested in.
Mm.
So it's not about the coaching, it's about how you're coaching.
Oh yeah,
So,
100%.
yes.
You
So
know,
keep that in mind.
my buddy that I talk about a lot, John Gordon. He
Yes.
wrote the Energy Bus. In the Energy Bus, he calls those folks energy vampires.
Yes.
He has a no vampires allowed rule, and sometimes those vampires need to get off your bus.
Exactly. Get off your bus. I love it. So, for me, and I know for you too, it's frustrating when people don't value service and team culture as a business strategy. I like to call them the coconuts. Okay.
Yep.
They're always thinking about numbers. A lot of people will hire consultants and speakers and things like that if they're about sales. But guess what? A sales department can only sell your hotel once if you've got a bad operation.
Mm.
So, how does authentic appreciation turn to actual profit? Let's talk about that.
I think the ultimate this is where the ultimate ROI is,
Yes.
and it's not talked about enough, but
No.
our biggest expense, I know your audience is largely hoteliers, is labor. And it's the largest expense in most cases, in most
Hmm.
business.
Yes.
And yet we're spinning our wheels on turnover and training. We don't do a good job of training in our hotels. We don't have enough funds for it. But
Hmm.
you know, this is mission critical. Folks have to enjoy coming to work because if they don't enjoy coming to work, a couple things are going to happen. One, they're not going to be providing the best possible service. The customer, we said it earlier, what's happening on the inside is going to be felt on the outside by the
Hmm.
customer. All right, so that lane right there, let's talk about that for a second. So now you've got poor customer service. Customers aren't getting the best service. They're, you know, not potentially going to come back, which, loyalty is what we're all aiming for at the end of the day. We want people to come back.
Hmm.
you know, if someone doesn't enjoy coming to work, they're looking for another job, most likely. They're
Hmm.
eventually going to leave. And so there's a huge expense associated to that. So you've got a massive expense on the fact that you're going to have to fill that position. You've got a massive expense on the fact that they're disengaged. You've got a massive expense on potentially poor customer service.
Hmm.
So to me, I tell people all the time, yes, you wear a lot of hats as a leader, so many hats. I really believe the most important thing you do every day is create a place where people want to come to work. You have to have
Yes.
that foundation because when you have that foundation, everything else is easier. Everything else is more prosperous. So
Hmm.
uh, I don't know exactly what your question was, but I,
You
I,
know,
I
where
just
where
say,
people find profit because again, some people will hire a sales consultant and think not
Mhm.
a second about it because they see that ROI. But then they'll say, oh, training is fluff, or customer experience training is fluff. But there is, like I said, the sales team, you could have the best sales team in the world. They can only sell a group, a team, whatever, one time if you don't have good operations.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and how many times did you have to have a frustrated sales manager or director of sales in your office because the ops team dropped a ball and we lost it? You
Yes.
can't put a number on it. Uh,
Yes.
in the book, I
Hmm.
share a story about a hotel that I took over and as a GM, and it wasn't long after I had been there, maybe a week. I come into the hotel and the director of sales is waiting on me and she is furious and can I talk to you right away, so we
Hmm.
go in my office and she shares with me that overnight the night auditor went to check in one of our VIPs from our top account, and when she tried to check in, she shared with him that she had lost her wallet. So she did not have her credit card, she didn't have an ID. And he said, well, I'm sorry, our policy is that you need a credit card and ID to check in. And, frustrated, she explained, I already told you I don't have those things. Now, in front of him, and most of your listeners know this, you could see that she'd been to the hotel 50 times, that she was a titanium member. I think she was ambassador at that time.
Okay.
We have her credit card. We have all her information. She's there multiple nights. But this night auditor saw that policy so black and white,
Hmm.
and he sent her packing. And she
Hmm.
went across the street to another hotel. And to this day, that account is at that other hotel.
Wow.
And that's why I go back to why I said I hate the word policy, because
Hmm.
great customer service is happens a lot of times in the gray area.
Hmm.
That was a gray area. Like he unfortunately I hadn't been there long enough to get in my roots of what I felt was good. You're empowered. You need to do whatever it takes. But how simple would it have been to just let her check in and deal with it the next day, or 100 different things, right?
Hmm.
So, um, a big part of employees being uplifted is that they're empowered, that
Yes.
they understand they have your support to do what is right in the moment to take care of a customer. And
Hmm.
back to your point, I mean that was a massive multi-million dollar account at that hotel that is now gone.
Yes. Now let me ask you if I can ask this. You were the GM at the time? So from that happening, was this a great aha moment? Was this a one off, or was this a moment where you were like, wow, I didn't set this clear enough?
So many things.
Yeah.
I literally think I'd been there a week. So it was, I think
Okay.
the aha was like, all right,
Yeah.
um, day one, when I go somewhere new, like empowerment guidelines need to be out right away.
Right.
Like everyone needs to
Hmm.
where what my expectation is.
Exactly.
And my expectation around empowering folks was let people do the jobs you hired them to do. Trust them. I I didn't have a number on it. Ritz Carlton has the $2,000 thing. I love
Hmm.
that. I love that. I think it's
Yeah.
because it obviously shows that they value that and they want their folks to know. But I didn't put a number on it because I didn't want folks to feel like they were in a box, and so
Hmm.
they could do whatever it takes. And maybe it's the wrong decision, but let's talk about it on the back end and let's
Right.
coach up and move. But the biggest aha was like, all right, we don't have another minute around this topic. We need to let's get everybody on board right away and understanding what our culture is now around taking care of the customer, doing the right thing. On the flip side of this story, not in the book, is that this young man um, didn't see that he did anything wrong
Hmm.
because he followed the policy,
Right. Right.
black and white. And
And
even
at
when,
some point in his career, if he had not,
yeah,
he would have gotten it. He could
exactly,
have lost his job. That's where we need to do that coaching.
exactly. And we
Yeah.
all know the night audit shift is a little harder to coach
Yes. Yes.
for many reasons. One,
Uh-huh.
You never see them, but we spent a lot of time with that young man, and we made some ground. We made some ground.
Yeah. And now, it could be everything we've talked about, but is there anything that we're missing that how did you become this heartfelt leader? I mean, was it just did it really get born from the Jason story or did it start somewhere else?
Well, now you're gonna make me be emotional. Honestly, I've always been this way. I think a lot of it was my upbringing with my parents.
Mhm.
In fact, I was signing a book for my mom, uh, and I wrote in there, "Thank you for modeling for me what leading from the heart looks like."
Mhm.
Um, but I think a big part of it was that, but also just I was fortunate to have some really great leaders that
Mhm.
modeled this for me in the hotel business. And also, I think, somewhere wired in our heart is just being a good person.
Mhm.
And my heart, and I know you feel the same way, my heart just was always around the folks that showed up every day and did these jobs that nobody else would do and that I don't think I could do, not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And yet I was so reliant on them to do whatever my mission was at that hotel, be it, drive revenue or get scores up or all those things.
Right.
And man, I just wanted to make sure those people knew I appreciated them.
Mhm.
And
What was your first job in hotel?
front desk.
Okay, so front
Yeah.
desk, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My first job I write about in the book was at a theme park in high school.
Okay, cool.
uh, Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's the largest theme park in the Midwest. But it was there that I discovered I really loved like hospitality and customer
Mhm.
service. And so right out of college, I got into hotel business.
I love it. That's so sweet. I love that. Are you an only child?
No, I have a sister, younger
Oh,
sister,
a younger sister. Nice. Yes. Well, of course, those
and she's
firstborn
a
boys.
she's a manager at Hobby Lobby.
Oh, how fun. Okay.
It's fun. She will bounce questions and ideas off me all the time.
Oh, that's so sweet that you
Yeah,
get to support her and help her blow her balloon.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so Ryan, fill in the blank. If every leader did just this one thing consistently, workplaces would be radically better.
Be positive. Be positive.
No bad days.
Being positive is a choice. You
Hmm.
have to put some intentionality around choosing to be positive.
Hmm.
And what we deal with every day as leaders, it's hard to be positive sometimes,
Hmm.
especially in the hotel business. Your general managers that are listening to this right now, and I don't say this just because I was one. I don't say it because you were one. I
Hmm.
believe hotel general managers are some of the most talented people on the planet. And I can't think of too many industries, too many businesses where the general manager of the property, the CEO, if you will, because we hear them
Hmm.
say that, you're the CEO,
Yes.
you are being tasked with trying to appease so many different stakeholders.
Yes.
These stakeholders all have very different needs, wants, expectations.
Hmm.
You have employees you need to make happy. You have guests that need to be happy. You have owners that need to be happy that a lot of times they just care about a bottom line. You have a management company that you're trying to make happy. And then, oh, by the way, and here's where I think this is where it's different. This is where it's different. Is you're managing an operation that has six, seven different, totally different disciplines that you
Hmm.
have to know about. Like, the chef in culinary is a totally different discipline than accounting.
Hmm.
And yet you got to manage all these people, all these different disciplines. And so I say this all the time. Great leaders know a little about a lot. Don't feel like you need to know everything. You do not need to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, you are going to be one of the best and most memorable leaders if you have some level of humility around you and understand that the chef is always going to be a better chef than you.
Hmm.
General managers that think they're the best at everything in the hotel, I promise you, don't. are not getting the level of respect and the results
Right.
that a humble general manager will. And
Right.
there's a chapter in this new book, and I hope everybody gets it and reads it, where I talk about um, somebody I worked for who thought they knew everything, and the reality was they had never done any of it,
Right.
and what that did to those that worked with him and around him.
Hmm.
And so,
And oh, I was gonna say, if I can speak right now to the person who thinks they're supposed to know it all. You remember when we first became the general manager and we are like, oh crap, now I'm supposed to know it all, and if I don't know something, they're gonna think I'm a fake, I'm a fraud, that imposter syndrome. We're telling you right now, we're giving you that permission. You're not supposed to know it all. We're called general managers because we have a general knowledge of everything that goes on, but it's okay.
mhm.
And actually, it's better that you don't.
I talk a lot about, and this is also in the book, about just showing part of being a great GM, especially when you don't know everything, and especially areas where you maybe don't have as much of a comfort level.
Hmm.
For me, it was accounting. It was the kitchen. Even though I was a restaurant manager, like I was not a chef,
Hmm.
but I share a story about how I had a chef coat in my office. And I would put that chef coat on when it hit the fan, and I would go in the kitchen, and everybody would laugh and, have fun with the fact that I was there because they knew I couldn't do anything, but I was there and I wanted to help, and I might plate up or I might clear tables.
Hmm.
But, it was acknowledging, I'm here, and I'm not going to mess up the line. I'll get off, I know enough
Right.
not to mess it
Put
up.
me where you need me.
But yeah, and that was, yeah, I mean, gosh, you can't possibly know everything.
Hmm.
Uh, and a lot of times you go into situations as a general manager where you have very seasoned people in these roles.
Hmm.
For a reason, I found that to happen a lot in my career and the controller position.
Hmm.
In fact,
Yeah.
I was a general manager at the Westin, Fort Lauderdale. The controller, she's there right now. She's been there over 30 years.
Wow.
And I could never teach her anything when it came to accounting. Why would I
Right.
try?
Right.
But there were other ways that I could teach her,
Hmm.
around maybe leadership or uh
Influence.
but man, I learned so much from her, and I wanted to soak it up. And
Yes.
I think there we had such a respect for each other because I think she saw that I was honoring her experience and what I could
Hmm.
take from her, and it went both ways.
Right, right. You're all there on the same team and you all have different roles.
Exactly.
And her role is finance. That doesn't
Exactly.
mean you're supposed to
Yeah.
know it all. You're
Yeah.
you're just supposed to know how to support her.
Exactly. That's the key. You're there to support all the
Yes.
roles.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love it so much. All right, let's think about what are three action items from all the things we talked about today that a leader right now can go back and implement to get better results tomorrow.
Mm.
Today.
All right.
What do you think
Well,
are three action items?
let's make these easy. So let's
Yes.
start imagining people have invisible balloons.
Mm-hmm. Blow
All
their
right.
balloons.
So, and you could even take that exercise, as you said, into a huddle, get some balloons
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Hey, everybody, we carry these invisible balloons. Let's blow our balloons up." Now, what does it mean when you let a little air out? Somebody says an unkind word or discouraging, and then let's blow a little bit into the balloon when we talk about, "Hey, good job. Great job with that guest over there," or "Thanks for coming in today."
Yes.
Different ways that you can inflate the balloon. So let's say that's number one. Um, Number two is these are three what now?
Action
Three.
items. I'm gonna pop in one that I think is
All right.
so bright is the no bad days, what your
Yes.
shirt says. Go back to your leadership team. Tell them this
Yep.
message about
Yep.
no bad days. That if we need to have a bad day with each other, let's make a pact. But for
Yes.
our team, no bad days.
Absolutely.
Love that. Okay.
That's a good one. And I think a good third one would be just um again, it's around a conversation with your team is um does your team know they have your full support when it comes to making decisions for the customer empowerment?
Empowerment.
empowerment, have that conversation. Folks,
Hmm.
I want you to know that you can do whatever it takes to make sure the customer walks out those sliding doors happy today. And, it may not be the right decision. We'll talk about it, but you have my support in doing it in that moment. And I will say 9 times out of 10 in my career, I was always on board with whatever that person did.
Right.
Uh, in the first book, I talk about how a young lady at a front desk, a guy came down, his key didn't work, and she comped his stay for the week. And that wasn't exactly what I would have done, but it was important how I handled that conversation. He didn't feel
Hmm.
like he could do something like that again. So,
Because the
we
first time you say, "Why'd you do that? You shouldn't have done that,"
oh,
they'll
yeah.
never make a decision to call again, and you'll get the calls at midnight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? All right, so now, Ryan, you know that at the end of every episode, I ask my current guest a question from our last guest, and then they give me a guess for my next guest. So your question is from a terrific guest, Paul Herkman, and he's a huge advocate in the world, changing the world in so many dramatic, amazing ways. So his question for you was, what was the last thing that moved you that you didn't do anything about? And if you could, what would you do now? I know,
Hey,
a
Paul,
powerful
geez.
question.
What was the last thing that something happened to me that moved me?
What was the last thing that moved you and that you at the time didn't do anything about it? And if you could, what would you do about it now? Like, for example, my first thought was, recently seeing somebody on the road recently around where I am, and with their sign, and there wasn't a chance to stop, and I really wanted to stop, and I didn't turn. I could have turned around. I could, what I mean? Like, what's something that moves you that you maybe want to do something about in the world
Golly,
that you
this is
haven't yet?
massive.
I know he's a deep dude. This is a great podcast too.
uh, I mean, I certainly relate to what you said about like when you see folks that maybe are less fortunate.
Mhm.
And okay, something came to mind.
Okay.
Now I think I'm gonna have to do something about it because of this question.
I love it. That's why he
So
asked it.
I there is a woman that I see almost every time I go to the grocery I don't know her story.
Okay.
I have made some assumptions, which, we shouldn't do that, but I've seen her and I would make an assumption maybe she's homeless. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But that would be my assumption. And so I did see her a couple years ago at a Starbucks, and I felt it on my heart she was just drinking water. So I felt in my heart to buy her a gift card. So I got the gift card and I gave it to her. And she said thank you and she smiled. But I've seen her many times since then, like so many times.
Really? Huh.
Every time I see her, I feel like I want to know her story.
Right.
Like, what's going on here? Why are you here every time? Why are you, so that's something I get moved on often and I haven't acted on.
Uh-huh. So next time you're gonna just pull up a chair and say, "Hey, I'm Ryan."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love. I can't wait. I want you to film this.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, I
don't film
know.
it.
Maybe I always wonder about that. But yeah, it's definitely, we'll see.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I love that, and I love that thoughtful question.
Yeah, it definitely got me thinking. I had
Yes.
to dig deep, but then it wasn't that deep. It was right there.
Yes, see, and
Yeah.
that's why those questions are so good because there are things right there that we walk past every day, just like the
Yeah.
litter in our front porch.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
met my portico share at the hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, my friend, what is your question for our next guest?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't think I'm going to go that deep. But I would say let's ask the next guest. What was your first job, and what do you remember about your first boss?
Okay, I love that. It's deeper than you think.
And the reason I love that question is maybe we can pull everything together here with Uplifted is that
Mhm.
You, whether you're someone's first boss or not, people are going to remember you and the
Mhm.
impact you had on them. And I believe that is a gift. I believe that is
Yes.
a privilege. I believe that I don't know what the percentage is, but there's got to be a small percentage of people in the world that are put in positions like us where we get to impact someone's 8 to 10, 12 hours a day.
Hmm.
That's a big deal.
Hmm.
And so I think we need to honor that. I think we need to understand it's a privilege to be a leader. And
Yes.
so people are going to remember you, good or bad. Man, when you want to be remembered positively, what do you want to be reflected on as someone who made a difference, even if it's a short amount of time where you were their leader? So I love posing that question to people because everybody remembers their first boss.
Hmm. They sure do.
It's either it was a great first boss or not so great. And
Yes.
in our hotel industry, we do get to be people's first boss. That's kind of cool too about the hotel industry.
Hmm.
Every day in our hotels, people are getting their first job. It's, front desk agent, housekeeper, server, hostess, and that is a really cool opportunity.
Really cool. I remember specifically at Key Lime Cove, I hired so many people at 17 years old,
Yes. Yeah.
and especially just like your entertainment, your theme park,
Mhm.
you hire so many young people, and I hear from them still today,
Yeah.
and it's just some of the most proud moments I have of my career that I look back on. Yeah, so that's cool. Love
Don't
it.
you
Love
don't
that.
you wish sometimes you could go back, like if you
Oh,
could, like go back and do that job right now? Not like go back in time, but like go do it right now.
yeah. Oh God, I
Yeah.
I miss anytime I
Yeah.
get to work with water park
Yeah.
resorts and theme parks and things like that. Because I'm the director of fun. I mean
Yeah.
that lights my fire. So yeah,
Yeah.
anytime I get to work with them, it brings me back, and I love that. Yeah. But that's a perfect way to end. I love that message. I love the question for the next guest. So Ryan, tell everybody where they can connect with you, where they can get your new book.
Go to ryanminton.com and you'll see all things. You can follow me on my social media channels. I love engaging on LinkedIn. You can get information on the book, all those things. ryanminton.com.
Perfect. And inside the book, the very first page is a super cool quiz to tell you how positive of a leader you are, right?
Right. Yep.
Yes. And so
Absolutely.
so you're going to want to get that. You're going to want to do the quiz and just learn all the good juicy stuff inside the book. Ryan, I could talk with you for hours. You know this. I
Yep.
love you so much. I'm so grateful that we met. I am so grateful for your friendship.
Thank you.
Sincerely. Thank
Need
you for coming
nothing
into
but love.
yes, nothing but love. I love it. Thank you so much, Ryan. That's a wrap for today's show. Say yes to taking action and changing the world one yes at a time. And oh, my friend, will you say yes to review, like, and subscribe? The more yeses you give, the more juicy goodness I can bring to all of you wise pineapples. Cool or cool?